Welcome to the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. What happened to Samuel Wazizi? How did he die? Where is his body? These are questions put to the government of the Republic of Cameroon by journalists, human rights defenders, lawyers, civil society and political leaders, national and international organizations over the death of Boya-based CMTV journalist Samuel Wazizi, and he died following close to a year of incommunicado detention and torture. Stay with us. After close to a year in incommunicado detention, he has dropped his pen. His microphone, his mouth has been sealed by torture. Samuel Ajeka Abuwe, popularly known as Samuel Wazizi, died in circumstances yet to be clarified by military authorities. Sources within the ranks of the National Armed Forces of Cameroon revealed that he died in the Yaoundé military hospital where he was under medical care following months of torture in incommunicado detention. He was accused of having links with secessionists and the journalists of CMTV in Boya in the southwest region of Cameroon. Samuel Wazizi rejected all the accusations against him. Lawyers, civil society and political leaders, human rights defenders, national and international organizations have condemned the death of Samuel Wazizi and the violation of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon, while Barrister Agbobala, a human rights lawyer, founder and president of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, is asking for answers from the Yaoundé regime as to what happened to Samuel Wazizi. Barrister Michel Ndoki, member of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, says the death of Samuel Wazizi is a sign of a dictatorial regime reigning in the Republic of Cameroon. And she says, I quote, "The day will come soon. We will all rise as a people against the small, tiny group of oppressors. I can see that day coming." End of quote by Barrister Michel Ndoki of the CRM political party. And of course, international bodies have also been reacting. The Committee to Protect Journalists has been asking for answers as to what happened to Samuel Wazizi, the journalist of CMTV, who died after 10 months of incommunicado detention and torture. And of course, the senior researcher for human rights in Central Africa, Ilaria Allegrossi, has also issued a statement on the death of Samuel Wazizi, and she is indicating that this incident further depicts the level of human rights violations in the Republic of Cameroon. She says, I quote, "His case underscores dangers faced by many other journalists, often the target of harassment, intimidation, threat and assault by security forces and authorities." End of quotes by Ilaria Allegrossi. Ilaria Allegrossi, the senior researcher of human rights in Central Africa. The Cameroon English-speaking Journalists Association, the National Trade Union of Journalists, are planning to undertake a protest move to demand for answers, to demand for justice for Samuel Wazizi, journalist with CMTV in the southwest region of Chief Town, Boya. He was arrested on the 2nd of August 2020 in Boya and accused of having links with separatist fighters in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, accusations which he rejected during one of the visits to the Muya district police station, where he was detained during the first days of his arrest in that part of the country. Now take a listen to journalist Larry Ochena. He is a reporter with The Voice newspaper and CEO of Larry's Newsroom. He is condemning the killing of Samuel Wazizi. Take a listen.
Sincerely, we are very troubled because as a journalist, we cannot hear that a colleague who was arrested in August 2019, tortured, kept incommunicado for those length of time, is dead. If the government actually cherishes what that fourth X that they call journalism is all about, then they should actually give us that necessary statement. It is important for us to hear from the government so they can tell us exactly the situation that surrounds Wazizi's death. I know the colleague or the profession per se is a noble one, of course, but then it will not be noble if the government doesn't allow us to practice or give us that freedom of speech. I want to use this platform to urge the government, as a journalist, an English-speaking journalist from the Northwest region, that a statement to this effect is of great importance. Wazizi is a person who also deserves that right, that respect. He has a family. He's been the lone child in the family that was taking care of a big family. So we are standing here today to say that let the government come out clearly, give us the statement that will take us back to the normal shape of minds, because we are sincerely upset and very bitter with what has transpired of recent. Thank you very much.
Chedna journalist with the Voice newspaper in the northwest region of the country and CEO of Larry's Newsroom. Speaking there, other journalists, including Fuansun Chanji, have been condemning the silence of authorities, including the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Diangote, the Governor of the Southwest region, Benau Kalia Bilai, as far as the Samuel Wazizi case is concerned. And there have also been condemnations as far as the violation of the law and human rights in this case is concerned. Take a listen in this extract to the Southwest Regional President of the Cameroon English-Speaking Journalists Association and the President of the Commonwealth Journalists Association for Cameroon and Vice President for Africa.
Scapegoats in the Anglophone crisis, because we are caught between the military and the civilian population we serve. When you speak something they think is not favorable to them, when you give the facts they think that you're supporting the military. Or when you speak something that is very correct, they think that you're supporting the government. So we are living in fear, but we have decided that we are not going to give up, because as journalists it is our role, it is our responsibility to give people the information, not minding who the information is favorable to or upset. But we have decided to dedicate ourselves to carry out our role based on our ethics and deontology. We are not going to sacrifice this because we are threatened by the military. We are not going to compromise our dignity and all we've got to satisfy a particular party. What we are saying is that we don't need people to be harassing us, whether they are military or they are civilians. They should allow us to do our job, and we are going to do our job professionally without fear or favor.
Well, Samuel Wazizi has been in detention for close to 10 months. Detained incommunicado on allegations which are still to be proven. When we got the news about his arrest, we made a few interventions to see whether he could be brought before a court of law, or they could allow us to see him, or he could be let go and nobody listened to us. 10 months after, the matter is before the court. I understand the habeas corpus has been dismissed on a number of occasions, and the Commonwealth Journalists Association, which I represent in Cameroon, and the Vice President for Africa have been directed to get involved in this matter. And I feel the pains of a journalist having to suffer without committing a crime. The law says when you arrest, you have to produce within 48 hours. That is the law. To have kept Samuel Wazizi for 10 months with nobody, no family member, no lawyer, no journalist having access to him, is an abomination.
In a similar story, a young Cameroonian known as Ibrahim Bello is in a legal battle with the government of Cameroon over torture which he suffered while in police custody, and a consortium of right defenders has brought back the case, and of course is indicating that what was given to Bello as compensation has been rejected by the family on grounds that it's insignificant. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
Few days ago, Ibrahim Bello was proprietor of a retail shop in his native Biakwa village in the Bamman Inubu division of the Central region of Cameroon. The shop was equipped by the National Rehabilitation Center for Persons with Disabilities, Cardinal Paul Émile Léger in Yaoundé, where he underwent social re-education after the torture he went through at the Ombesa police station. The torture that culminated to the amputation of his 2 legs at the Yaoundé General Hospital. While public opinion in Cameroon thought that it was over with his pathetic and long judicial battle, a consortium of lawyers and non-governmental organizations for Ibrahim Bello says his family has rejected what has been given to Ibrahim Bello. According to Jean-Claude Fognon, spokesperson of the consortium to defend Ibrahim Bello, neither Bello nor his family was part of the shop set up for him in his village. To the consortium facilitator, Dr. Ile Kamga, the government, found guilty of the current situation of Ibrahim Bello, would have given him a reasonable compensation equivalent to his amputated legs. He maintained that what was given to Ibrahim Bello was way below expectations. The National Rehabilitation Center for Persons with Disabilities, Cardinal Paul Émile Léger in Yaoundé, says it has spent over 15 million francs CFA for the re-education and re-socialization of Ibrahim Bello for 3 years. They also say over 500,000 francs CFA was used to set up his retail shop in his village, but the amount is contested by members of the consortium to defend him. On the judicial angle, one of the police officials who tortured Ibrahim Bello has been jailed for 4 years, while the other had a 4-year suspended sentence. The government of Cameroon was also charged to pay the sum of 50 million francs CFA for damage caused Ibrahim Bello. The consortium says that the new legal move is being delayed by the huge recompilation and deposit fee charged by the court in Bafia in the Bamman Inubu division, fixed to the tune of 207,900 francs CFA. The lawyers and right defenders say the charges and compensation in favor of Ibrahim Bello should be heavy enough to send a strong signal to those who intend to violate rights of others in Cameroon. They are not ready to back down until justice is given in favor of Ibrahim Bello. The consortium of lawyers and right defenders are currently mobilizing funds to give a reasonable economic stand to Ibrahim Bello while pushing for justice.
For me, Armstrong Sander reporting there. Now, in back to school news, we're taking you to the Dongamantum division in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, and the senior divisional officer of that administrative unit says that despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the Anglophone crisis, turnout was encouraging. On day one, the senior divisional officer of the Dongamantum was speaking after a tour of some schools in his area of command. Once more, for me, Armstrong Sander files in details.
The back-to-school train is on the move in Kambe, Dongamantum division of the northwest region of Cameroon. Learners from primary, secondary and institutions of higher learning answered present on day one of back-to-school. At the government bilingual high school Kambe, social distancing in seating order was the guiding principle.
This morning we have 231 students counseling present from a total unexpected number of 249. So the turnout is quite good. We have taken all the measures that we prescribed by hierarchy. You could have seen it yourself. We have buckets for the washing of hands. We have hand sanitizers, and the social distancing has been done. We have 24 students per class as prescribed by the minister.
Coming within the COVID-19 atmosphere, the Senior Divisional Officer for the Donga Mountain Division, Dr. Do Simon Quenti, and the Divisional Officer from Kamer Central Subdivision, Ngida Lawrence Che, were on the field to ensure the strict implementation of measures taken by the government of Cameroon. After about 12 schools visited within the Kamer Urban Center, the Senior Divisional Officer was satisfied with the level of implementation of the anti-COVID-19 measures.
So we have gone around and we have seen most of the children back in their classrooms. Many of the teachers enthusiastically teaching. As administrators, we are prepared to organize periodic tours. You see, this one was converted more like another sensitization tour, wherein the message could be taken by the children back to their parents, so that cleanliness should not only be an issue of the school, but back into the family as a whole.
Nkambe and the rest of the Donga Mountain Division has 0 COVID-19 cases, but authorities have maintained that preventive measures be doubled at every level in order to permanently keep the virus out of the division.
Schools have effectively resumed in the Bacham in the west region of the country, but the pupils, students, teachers and school officials are facing a major problem of inadequate supply of water, and considering the fact that one of the barrier measures against the coronavirus pandemic is the regular washing of hands with soap and clean running water, they are sending a distress call to the Yaoundé administration to do something about this problem. In other words, to solve the problem. Malice, or rather, Immaculate Fogwe reports.
The divisional officer from Bacham in the Bambutus division, west region of Cameroon, sensitizing pupils and students on how they could protect themselves from being contaminated with the coronavirus. His tour in these schools was equally to ensure that classes are going on hitch-free. I made a tour in primary and secondary schools in my area of command. I noticed that the anti-COVID-19 measures given by the government are being respected. As you can see, each class has 24 students with mobile taps kept at the entrance of the classrooms. At a time when constantly washing hands with water and soap has become a habit for most Cameroonians in the fight against COVID-19, the population of Bacham have to cover several kilometers in order to get potable water. Access to potable water is a veritable nightmare in Bacham. If we have to wash our hands constantly, then water must be made available for everyone. The mayor of Bacham, Chinda Pierre, promises the population that everything is currently being put in place to facilitate access to potable water. Meantime, education stakeholders are currently adapting to the measures put in place by the government while waiting for a possible cure for the coronavirus.
Some refugees in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, took to the streets today protesting against what they consider as injustice on the part of officials of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Cameroon. They are complaining over their poor living conditions and the fact that money sent to them for that has not reached them till now. Details with Manjikan Gabriel.
They stormed the regional bureau of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Littoral Region. They are requesting to have their shares of money sent to them by the United Nations Organization for their upkeep. They were blocked by the heavy deployment of security forces who were present.
Au niveau du Cameroun,
in Cameroon, we were forced to create accounts with mobile telephone companies.
Or, cependant, beaucoup de réfugiés vivent dans la précarité.
Those of us who lead the Association of Refugees went to the office to inquire if the amount will be enough for a refugee family to settle its problem. Too bad we asked for 3 months, but nothing.
À la famille des réfugiés.
These refugees who have been given 10,000 francs CFA denied to collect it on grounds that the United Nations can't send such amount of money to them. Those in charge were given 125,000. In the Central African Republic, 75,000. But here in Cameroon, we were given 10,000 francs CFA and a paper that wasn't signed by the head of the bureau. We have been asking since long that if the HCR can't take care of us again, we should be sent to other countries. I'm married to a Cameroonian and things are not moving well. Tear gas was used to disperse them. Arrests were also made on the spot, but were later liberated. The head of the regional bureau of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is expected to make a statement to calm down the angry refugees.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our first guest in today's edition of Talking Point is a legal mind, Barrister Tamfo Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations. Barrister, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
And our second guest tonight is joining us from New York in the United States of America, Angela Quintal, Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ Africa Program Coordinator. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us in this edition of Talking Points. I'll start with you, Barrister Tamfo Richard. As a legal mind, you have been closely following up what's been happening in the Anglophone Cameroon and the rest of the country, and particularly this case which has links with the Anglophone crisis. Samuel Wazizi, detained for close to a year incommunicado and now declared dead.
Well, it's really sad and heartbroken, because when you imagine that you live in the 21st century and more to that, tortured up to death, his lawyers are able to give him necessary legal assistance. His lawyer is rejected like a troublesome person. All avenues in court, he's being disgraced. When you see that and you imagine that, okay, if that's how Cameroon should live at this age, then there is a problem. I received the news of his death in a very disturbing environment, because I know that Wazizi, like many others who are in jail, especially journalists, have not been given the proper treatment they deserve. So we should not allow such things or tolerate such injustices to still happen. I think it's high time for the journalist community, as well as human rights advocates like me, to force the government to render justice to Wazizi, because he really deserves it.
And we have one of the officials of Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, the organization, the international organization working on the safety of journalists. Angela Quintal, who is the CPJ Africa Programs Coordinator, joining us from New York in the United States of America. Angela, what do you think about this case of a journalist who has been detained incommunicado for close to a year, and today he is dead? He is declared dead or dead. You have been closely following this case. What do you think about this?
I have indeed. But just to say, we are too late for the government to officially confirm that Samuel was killed in government custody. We have had no communication whatsoever from the government and nor has his lawyers, and nor have the various unions in Cameroon. There's been absolutely no word, no official word. What we have heard from anonymous sources who have said that he has been killed, was tortured, and that he died in hospital in Yaoundé. But the Committee to Protect Journalists' call is on the government to do the right thing and to publicly announce whether Samuel Wazizi was killed in detention after torture. Well, if he is alive, then show us, let's see lawyers who have been for over 9 months, have been battling to get access to their client. Let there be proof of life, and let there be justice. Unfortunately, the family, the friends, the colleagues, international organizations like the Committee to Protect Journalists have been stonewalled repeatedly when we have this information. Yet again, yesterday and this morning, I reached out to several government ministers, several government officials, asking for confirmation, and there has been absolute silence. And this is really a tragedy. He is a son who is the purpose and he has to be killed, then we do want justice. We do want accountability. It's not. We need to remind you that there is one journalist who was also killed in custody 10 years ago in April, Bibi Ngoto, and who has not had any justice in that case.
All right, Angela, you have been closely following up this case for the past close to 1 year now, and you are in charge of protecting journalists. I'm talking about the organization, the CPJ. What have you been doing for this while until now that Samuel Wazizi is dead?
So obviously we have used both public advocacy and private advocacy to find out what exactly happened to Samuel Wazizi. We have petitioned the United Nations, we have petitioned the government, and we have listened to the public of Cameroon. I have spoken on numerous occasions to officials in government asking questions. It is not only the Committee to Protect Journalists, but working with local journalist organizations, with international organizations, who have tried to get to the bottom of what has happened, work with his lawyers, who have dealt directly with his family to know about. And it is a sad day, when a country like Cameroon, who is a member of the United Nations, is a member of the African Union, has a constitution that supposedly believes in the rule of law, that it cannot actually publicly or in the court of law confirm whether a citizen is dead or alive. It is totally unacceptable, and it is time that the government of Cameroon makes a public statement and tells the world whether he is dead or whether he is alive. Let me just say that until we have official confirmation that he is dead, we will definitely not accept.
All right, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you in a short while. Angela will come back to you in a short while. Barrister, one of your colleagues, Barrister Michel Doki, said the treatment of Samuel Wazizi, his detention and his death, is an indication that we are living in a dictatorial regime in Cameroon. What do you think about that?
Yes, I join my voice to her because you see, we have had more than 3,000 deaths in the Anglophone crisis, and some of these arbitrary arrests, torture, and leading to death is also witnessed in this regime. This is a regime that does not give you the opportunity to express your opinion. If you do, you are arrested, you are brought to Yaoundé, you are tortured to death. So I think what she's saying is very correct. You can only find that in a dictatorial regime, because in a regime that preaches the respect for the rule of law, or that says that it is a state of law, you can't find that. There is a criminal procedure code that guides the arrest of any person who is suspected of having committed a crime. There is an avenue that gives a possibility to his lawyers and family to give him necessary assistance and visit. But you don't witness that whenever, or for the past years, you don't witness that. When somebody is arrested, immediately he's found guilty by the person who is arresting him, and immediately the sentence is being passed, just like the case of Wazizi. You see that in this type of functioning, you can only term it as a dictatorial regime.
No, when you look at what has happened for the past 11 months till now that Samuel Wazizi is dead, there is a question: what can possibly explain what you legal minds qualify as gross violation of the law, gross violation of human rights? What can possibly explain that? Is there any legal explanation to this?
It's incomprehensible, Mr. Babila. No one can understand exactly how possible it is in Cameroon, that has a constitution, that has ratified the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that has a criminal procedure code that regulates criminals, let me put it, if he was. When you are arrested, there is what you call presumption of innocence, meaning that Wazizi did not benefit from his presumption of innocence. He was arrested, suspected of having links with separatists, and immediately judged and found guilty. And worst of it is that he's being tortured while in detention without giving access to either his lawyers and families. You keep someone for so long, 10 months, incommunicado, without giving any signs either to his family and lawyers. That's criminal and inhumane. You can't understand how possible it is. There is no legal address the government can put forth to tell us or explain to us that he died as a result of this. It's incomprehensible.
All right. Angela Quinta, Committee to Protect Journalists, CPG Program Coordinator for Africa. There is a question that I want to ask you. Has journalism become a crime?
Well, in Cameroon, I'm afraid that journalism is clearly a crime. And why do I say this? Cameroon is actually the second worst jailer of journalists in sub-Saharan Africa, after Eritrea, according to our annual prison census. We are aware that there are currently 8 journalists, and I'm including Samuel Wazizi in this until we have official confirmation that he has been murdered. 8 journalists currently in jail for their journalism. At the time, I might add, where we have a problem with overcrowded prisons, where we do have COVID-19, and we have appealed to the government and to politicians who jail journalists around the world to release all those journalists, because journalists do not deserve to be behind bars. And this is what is happening in Cameroon. And yes, I say unequivocally that in Cameroon, journalism is a crime, and we have seen how this has affected journalists in terms of self-censorship, ongoing censorship, and might I add, ultimately the people who lose are the citizens of Cameroon, who should have direct information, should have access to information, should have credible and verifiable information from journalists. And while this is going on, and while there is talk that journalists get murdered in government custody, while we have journalists in jail, those journalists who are outside are finding it very difficult to do their jobs. And frankly, it is disgraceful, and the Committee to Protect Journalists again urges the government of Cameroon to release those journalists, tell us where is Wazizi, if he has been killed, do the right thing, ensure that his family is able to get his remains and to bury him, and then hold those responsible for his killing accountable and let them face justice. Because unfortunately there has been impunity in Cameroon, there continues to be impunity, and it must stop.
Now, during his over 11-month detention. Some of the questions that you were highlighting there, his whereabouts, what is happening to him. Did you receive any answer from the authorities, from anybody?
Absolutely nothing. Let me say that when he was in custody, in police custody in Moya, for a brief 2 minutes, some of his colleagues were able to see him, very briefly. And the one thing that Samuel Wazizi said was, don't let me die in here. That was his plea to his colleagues. And since that day, from his lawyers to his colleagues to organizations like the Committee to Protect Journalists, we have repeatedly asked government to ensure that they tell us what is going on. I mean, you have a lawyer on your panel. Let me say that Wazizi's lawyers have been in court twice with 2 applications for habeas corpus, so that he's brought to court. This has been going on for months and months and months, and they have been stonewalled by the government, by the state. Why is that? This must stop, this must end. That's all I can say. I think that the government of Cameroon owes his family, his friends, his colleagues, international organizations, local organizations, they owe them all the truth.
And there are still some of the journalists who are in detention as we speak now. What information do you have about the others, more than 10 of them who are still being detained today, and their situation? What have you been doing? Have you been pressing on the authorities? Are they responding?
Very much so. And again, the government of Cameroon clearly believes that it is beyond having to explain itself to the people of Cameroon. I'm not asking the government to answer to CPJ or any other organization. I'm asking the government to answer to the people of Cameroon who deserve answers. Why is it that there are 8, and according to our information, that there are 8 journalists in jail for their work in Cameroon? Where are they? The majority of them are in Fontainebleau prison, in the central prison, which we know is an absolute hellhole, and then in the neighboring principal prison. We have someone like Wawa Jackson Paul, that for more than 2 years has not seen the inside of a court of law where he can actually say whether he's innocent or not. He's been held in pre-trial detention. That is an international aberration. The same with someone like Kortota, who is facing criminal defamation, and time again is being brought to court and has not been tried. So our first request is that government ensures that those who are in pre-trial detention and have been in pre-trial detention for so long, release them. And release them now, as we've requested in our letter to President Biya and in terms of our international campaign. Release them now, because what we are seeing is that COVID-19 is rife in prisons. The World Health Organization, the very special rapporteurs of the United Nations have urged governments to release detained journalists and political prisoners, and yet again, absolute silence from the government. We have others that are seriously ill. I mean, we all know that Thomas Awa Jr. is very ill in Condé. Why is it, and we've written to the government about that as well, why is it that he has not been released on humanitarian grounds? Why is it that journalists and people who are critical of government are being thrown in jails with absolutely no chance of having justice, of having a due process, of having a fair trial? It is an abomination, and the international community and the locals in Cameroon have to hold the government to account.
Barrister, Angela describes what is happening as an abomination. Journalists who are detained for a long period of time, no charges, pre-trial detention extended beyond the time normally stated by the law, And she cited the case of Thomas Awa, who is in a very critical health condition, according to information from some of the lawyers of the detainees of the Anglophone crisis. When you look at all these, and the authorities were saying this is a state of the law, or this is a law-abiding nation, and so on and so forth. What's your analysis of all this?
I hope same analysis with her, because it's really an abomination. Like I told you, it's incomprehensible, because, like I'll keep on repeating, Cameroon is a state of law, and in a state of law, it is supposed that you have to respect the laws that it has given to the citizens. You arrest someone, you don't give him the possibility to defend himself, because Wazizi was not given the possibility to defend himself. You are even held in custody, like the case of Awa. That's somebody that was arrested within the Anglophone crisis. He has been sentenced. He is having health issues. You don't give facilities for him to go and treat himself. People have even advocated that we are in a sanitary crisis. It is time to decongest the prisons. But such people who are in a very fragile health situation, you still think that they are harmful, or that they deserve serving the sentence, which you know that they were innocent. So it's really frustrating. I understand that journalists should be frustrated, but it should not only be seen to be journalists, because other peoples are suffering the same thing. So a few months back, someone was killed in Bafoussam simply because he was suspecting playing maybe cards, and many others. So we should really advocate or join voices to people who are speaking that such arbitrariness by the state should stop. People should not take the laws into their hands. We have respectable institutions, we should respect them. If the procedure demands that they arrest you, they bring you before the court, they should give that avenue, they should allow your lawyers to work, because throughout this process, the lawyer, the very first lawyer who entered this case, Barrister Ewule, was seen as a frustrated counsel, because unable to exercise his profession, was thrown out. That's a disgrace to him. So we should not allow such things to pass. It's intolerable.
All right. Angela Quinta, you are the CPJ Africa Program Coordinator. I want you to talk to the authorities of Cameroon now, to the Minister of Justice, to the Minister of Defense, or the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, and even to the President of the Republic concerning the case of Samuel Wazizi.
Tell the family of Samuel Wazizi whether he is dead or alive. Let there be closure either way. If he has indeed been held in detention, then hold those responsible for his killing accountable. Let there be the rule of law in Cameroon. Let Cameroon not be destined to continue with a culture of impunity as we have seen for too many years.
All right, Angela Quinta, thanks for joining us today from New York in the United States of America.
Thank you very much.
Barrister,
yes.
What will you tell the authorities of this country regarding this case and the other cases that we have mentioned in this newscast? Over 8 or more journalists still being detained in different incarceration centers in Cameroon. Talk to the Minister of Justice, talk to the President of the Republic, and why not the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense?
Yes, a life lost can never be taken back. The government should officially come out with an apology statement expressing its condolences to the family of Wazizi and to the journalists as a whole, and take upon itself not to violate human rights of citizens. If someone commits a crime, they should respect what the law says and follow the procedure. The government should act as a responsible government. Law enforcement officers are there to protect us, the citizens. If someone commits an offense, don't just arrest him arbitrarily. You sentence him there without him giving him the chance to defend himself in a court of law. I think it is time that our government should officially take a communique to that, presenting its apologies to those families, and that subsequent events will not happen. That's what I can say.
And the Cameroon English-speaking Journalists Association and the National Trade Union of Journalists in Cameroon are calling on all media practitioners in the country to be mobilized, to be ready to take action to put an end to such impunities in the country, notably against journalists. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.